chill, as the kids say.
Lorenzo, this might be a stupid question,
Oh,
but where's that coming from? Music?
Like the band is in the hallway in the lobby
Oh, okay.
doing rehearsals for their stuff for Flash. Do you need me to ask them to at least move out of the lobby?
No, I was just gonna say if it was you playing on xylophone music for no reason, with no real like rhythm or.
It wouldn't surprise me, but I'm too lazy today to actually do that. So
Yeah, like I'm not saying you do listen to weird xylophone music, but I'm not saying you don't either.
you could. It's a mystery.
You're talking to it.
You're the best.
You don't have to talk right into it. She's not singing. If you want to, like right up to your mask.
You know what else is good you have? Your father?
Can you guys, like, is the stream working? Can you guys hear
it just says, please stand by for me.
Do we?
Should be you and Joe on screen right now. Let me check my phone.
That's what I was saying.
It
Weird.
is also xylophone music.
Have you seen
Can you hear it?
I don't see anything.
All play it all at the same time, so it's just a xylophone mix.
I think you're hearing it.
But I hope you understand that I had to sneak away at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Ask Amara to
It was pretty poppy.
to go live. Like we are good. She just needs to scroll live.
You might have sent the link from yesterday on
I put the link in the chat, Connie.
However, they got the link today. I think it was yesterday's link.
Oh, yeah.
It needs to be today's link.
If they go to KWHSTrojanTV at YouTube, or they go to YouTube, KWHSTrojanTV, we're up and live.
Okay. So try scrolling over to see if it's live, and if not, you may need to go back to the YouTube channel and click the one that says live.
Okay.
Here, I'll put.
I found the live one.
I'm not finding crap.
The level of professionalism is really dipped between Tuesday and Thursday.
It is so much more in sync. It's not perfectly in sync, but I can definitely. It's more in sync.
Can you hear yourself talking while you're talking?
I don't have the volume up, but
Will you forward me the link, Logan?
yes, I can.
Thank you.
I can't hear myself talking. Confirmed. Can you share a link?
Yeah, I can.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, like, get the
I feel way less.
the button that says share.
Stay closer to the camera.
Well, I'm trying to see what my phone looks like. I'm blind.
Oh, I had a live chat open. Share. Copy link. Here you go, Mara.
Are you texting it to me?
Oh, it has been texted.
Thank you, Connie. I'll text it to you. Oh, my Lanta, it's me. Dang, I can see myself. Guys.
Get closer to the screen again. Get closer to the camera again. Look down.
Jason, Bailey, and I are definitely talking crap on you right now.
It's a lot of fun.
Oh, Brad and I talked crap on you yesterday. don't know why that's funny to me, but it is. Well, it's good, because I'm only entertaining myself, so. I can chat publicly on this? Oh no. I'm glad I figured that out now.
This is what you don't think about.
Spend hours. We should be able to get them.
Oh, that's why?
Could you, I don't know what you're doing around here. Could you put it in the text here so I can?
I should put it in the Connie and Mara text. I actually just sent it to her.
I think she means in the Zoom link. Hold on a second.
If anyone says, okay, boomer, I'm gonna jump from the screen.
You're not a boomer, Connie.
Prepared for some sick content. I was like, I wonder if I had the
Okay, try that, Connie.
So anyway, I put a similar filter. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, we all set? Perfect. I'm gonna mute this, and then we'll go live and then we'll go back. Just give me a thumbs up when you guys are back.
Hi, my name is Joe Tyson. My film, Moving Upstream, follows the story of a woman named River, and as she's moving on into the next chapter of her life, an old memory of a lost loved one comes back to her. Please, take a seat, River. I wanted to thank you for giving me a chance today. I know that the grieving process can be quite tough. So, how has life been treating you in the recent days?
Well, if it was treating me well, I wouldn't be here today, would I?
So, let's talk about you, how you're feeling.
I feel like I made mistakes.
What kind of mistakes?
I think if I would have called her that night, or if I would have been there for her more, she would still be alive.
It's not your fault, you know.
I never said it was.
Then, do you blame her?
How could you say that? I could never blame her. She meant everything to me.
Tell me more about her.
She was amazing. Everything she did made me a better person. I miss everything about her, but I think the things I miss the most are the little things about her. The way she always used to take that ring off her finger whenever she drove, and it would sit there and rumble on the dash. Or the way that her tacky necklace she had would catch the sun. I miss the way that the cigarette she always had in her mouth would burn away on her lips like a match, as if she was taking the light for herself. I miss the way every touch from her hands used to take my problems away, like nothing else mattered but the way she made me feel. I miss hearing about her dreams. She said one day she was going to come and sweep me away in the middle of the night and take me on a journey, just to see how far the two of us could go. Thank you. Talking about her helped some.
Would you like to schedule another appointment?
Actually, I've been thinking about leaving town. She had a dream that we would leave together, and I plan on keeping that dream alive.
That was my film Moving Upstream. I hope you all enjoyed it. And we're just going to jump right into this presentation. And the first thing that I want to talk about is just the intended takeaway that I had. So the story for this is I had like a completely different film at the start of the year, but it still had like the same topic of just dealing with grief and more specifically just moving on from it. I think grief is such a big thing that people can relate to because everyone deals with it differently. So that's what I kind of wanted to showcase in this film. And in River's case, she's moving on, but just because she's moving on doesn't mean she has to forget the things about the person that she lost. And I think that can be said to everyone, that just because you lose someone or something that's important to you, you can still move on but not forget about the times that you had. And for the intended audience, I didn't really have like a specific one marked out because it's not like there's anything inappropriate for kids. But if I had to say, I would say like mid-teens and up, just because I don't think kids would probably enjoy a more drama-based film. And I would market to them through social media such as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, which is where I would put the first trailer probably a month or two before the film comes out, just to get that initial hype around like the release and get people interested in it. And I would put out some posters, very minimalistic, just because I just don't think anything too complicated would really fit with the theme of the film. And on the social medias, a week or two before the film actually comes out, I would put mini teasers that would be 5-ish seconds, just to rebuild the hype and remind people that the film is coming out and that they can go see it. And for non-traditional, I would want to do what's known as a missing phone game to get to know the characters. So what that is, it's basically just a mobile app that makes your phone appear as if you found someone's lost phone that was sitting on the ground. And the reason that I would want to do this is because I think it's a great way to bring in different types of audiences to your film. Because not only can the people who want to watch the film go play the game to get to know more about the character than just the base level, but also anyone that's just looking for a game to play, they download the game, they play it, realize it's connected to a movie, that's just more revenue and more people coming to see the film. And it would allow them to continue to get to know River better as a character. And River was played by my friend Grace Holloway. We've been best friends for a while, so working with her was really easy to do. And I think she did a great job. And the voice acting was me and my sister. And I'm just biased. I don't like it because listening to me and my sister talk for extended periods of time is kind of sickening. But on an overall level, I think she did a great job. She was able to give this like soft voice that had this longing to it, which I think worked well with, with the background music. I think the audio and score was probably my weakest point in the film. There was a point in the music that was kind of jarring where it like jumped to the next track that I had. And also I'm just kind of deaf as a person, so it didn't really work out well in my opinion. But overall, I think it fit the theme of the film well and got what I wanted to get across. I wanted it in the background to sort of just complement the voice of River. And I wanted it to have this feel of sort of like a comforting sadness to it. Something that's kind of melancholy, but still hopeful. since the theme of the film is just moving on. And I think that, tied with the visual aspects that I did, worked well. For color corrections, as you can see up there, I just kind of upped the saturation and color to give it this more warm, like heartwarming feel, which in certain cases you can notice it a lot, but in other cases it's kind of more subtle. And I did black bars on the top and bottom to give it a more dramatic feel for the film, but also to sort of represent River, since it's almost like a piece of the film is missing, just like how a piece of River is missing as she continues to move forward into the future. And some of the flashback scenes, the screen is sort of like a small box, which I did to represent how the memories of River of River's lost loved one are still there, but they're kind of fading. And it totally was not an accident. Are there any questions?
Questions, people?
Mavis.
What inspired you to make this your film?
I don't really know. I just thought it would be kind of like a fun topic to tackle, just because there's so many different ways that you can come to it, because grief is such like a big thing that everyone deals with in their own way. No.
In your planning for this movie, Joe, did you ever think about doing any kind of flashback scenes or making a connection for the audience to this person that she was talking about?
Not really, just because I wanted it to be like, I didn't really think that the lost loved one as like a person was that important. I just wanted to focus more on like the actual memories that River had of them.
Is there any reason that you don't see the therapist and the character talking to the therapist on screen?
Yeah, I kind of did that for the same reason that I didn't show River's lost loved one. It's just that it's just sort of like a thing of her moving on from the past, and while she still kind of reminisces over it, it's not something that she really wants to like focus on.
Joe, I think you did something that's like, let me back up and start again. This is a visual medium, right? And even in our class, we tell you like, hey, don't use voiceover, right? Like you should be showing the story, not telling the story. And you did a really interesting thing where you just told us the entire story, right? Like we have this voiceover that's happening between these two people, and it's juxtaposed with images that are not them talking, right? We're not seeing that voiceover happen. We're not even seeing the words that she's talking about, right? Like we're seeing her remembering, you know what I mean? And I think that was a really, really, really great way of creating this like story, right? Where what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing are connected, but they're not the same thing. And I thought that was a really, really interesting way of tackling this and telling this story. Based on your film last year, I knew that the visuals were going to be great, but last year's film was non-linear, right? Like you didn't have a story to it. And so I was really interested in seeing how you could take your skill set that is extremely creative in the filmmaking like medium, how you can take your skill set and then use that to create sort of a narrative film. And I think that you've done like this is your film, it's your voice. It's a creative way to tell this story that nobody else in here would have even thought of, let alone executed. And I think that that's a real testament to you. So really great job on that.
Thank you.
I really like the color palette of your film. I know that on the images in your presentation, the shot of her eyes close up and the rings were like almost identical in terms of color palette, and I just thought that was really interesting, really pretty. I would love to talk about the differences in actresses. So one, you had two different people. One was doing the voiceover and one was doing the physical action for the film, right? Mm-hmm. In what order did you accomplish those tasks? So did you do the voiceover first and then you shot her, or did you shoot her and then do the voiceover?
I did the filming first and then the voiceover second.
Okay, yeah. And then did she have the script to reference when you were filming her?
Yeah, we like went over the script beforehand, not only just for like the stage lines, but also just so that she could get a gist of like the actual story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that she at least had the script to go off of. I will say that if you were ever to do something similar like this in the future, and it's very rare that you would have one actor speaking and another one doing the actions, but because you have that disconnect of actresses, I wonder if it would have been beneficial for the actress that we see to hear how the other actress is saying it, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a huge difference between reading a script and interpreting it for yourself, and then hearing someone else interpret those words, and then have to go from there, right? Yeah. And so I think that maybe your actress who you're actually seeing on screen maybe would have had an advantage going into filming if she could hear that conversation out loud from the other actress. And that could inform her decisions as well about the grief that she's trying to portray. And I do also recognize that they are completely different moments in this woman's life, right? So the conversation that we're hearing is happening in the past, and that potentially motivates her to then actually leave at the end of the film. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So I think that because it also happened in that order, where that conversation happened first, and then what we see is happening later, it might have been beneficial to record first and then shoot the film. But overall, I would have never known that they were necessarily different. Like I thought I still think that there was a connection there between what we were hearing and what we were seeing, even though they were two completely different people. But overall, really, really great job. It was a really interesting story.
Thank you.
Joe, you've got a really good way of telling the story visually. Some of my favorite shots was when you were talking about the ring and then the crystal. There you're really showing, let me say it this way, you're making a connection for the audience about what the person's talking about. I would like to see some more of that. This kind of, I know that's part of what you did, but it kind of seems like you just went out one day and shot your friend in the car. It kind of fell a little bit flat to me. I, as an audience member, needed more connection to this relationship, to this story, and even show her leaving town, moving upstream. I think would have helped me as an audience member understand that story a little bit better. But visually and sound-wise, you did well, man. So be proud.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think to go to like Fleming's point from earlier, too, like I didn't know what to expect from you this year based on what you did last year. But just looking at it, like, oh, this is Joe Tyson, like that. It very much felt like something you were doing, and so if you plan on sticking with this, if you've got, it's weird to say you've got voice when, like we talked about doing the voice difference in this one, and the fact that there was no dialogue at all in the previous one, but there's a visual style that you have that's unique, and hopefully you stick with it, because I think it looked really cool, so I like it. We'll go to Logan, since you're on screen. Take it away.
Very, very well done. I, really enjoyed watching your film. I like the disconnected narration. It's not like a Morgan Freeman, and then he broke free from jail, like showing us exactly what was going on the screen. I liked that was a disconnect. I liked that there was a better scene in your sound editing than in your visual editing. That's awesome. I love that stuff. You had a few jump cuts in the car scene while she was getting ready. But I liked the shoe tying. Sometimes that is a hard phrase for me to say, but I like that. It showed that she was putting herself back together. It was symbolic. You had symbolism in your film. That's something you don't see often. So it's very, very well done there. You mentioned it in your presentation, your sound beds are a little jarring in one spot. Recommended way to fix that could potentially be to pick out one powerful line. Like the line that you love the most. Have no music there. So fade it out right before that line, powerful line, fade the other music in real fast. So that we get kind of that swell, get the calm before the storm. And I think that that'll help with that kind of jar band-aid.
Okay.
Perfect. And then I loved the writing. This was awesome. It was very well done script writing. And I'm sure Amara will talk on it a little bit more, but your marketing, oh man, loved it. So I think I'll either pass it to Amara or Connor.
Thank you.
I'll go, I guess. Also, really loved the film. I really liked that it felt like I was hearing her thoughts. And I think that's really hard to do. You just gave that vibe that I was like, I'm hearing what she's thinking, like she's replaying this moment. And that's hard to do. So I really liked that. I loved a lot of your shots. They were very beautiful. They felt reminiscent to me, which is nice. And I want to talk about your voice acting a little bit. So I agree that your sister did a really good job kind of making it sound contemplative. She did, I mean, the softness and the remembering really worked. But it was a little jarring going back between that and the conversation with you. And so I would encourage you, especially if you know the person that you're acting with, to play with your connection that you know. So it's like, you know it's your sister, go over the script numerous times, read it together numerous times, and then make it feel more real instead of like you're reading it. That was the only thing that I noticed, is that it just felt a little like, she was like, oh, ethereal, and then it was kind of a little like, oh, we're back to reading. So just work on that a little bit if you're gonna do some voice acting. I agree with Logan. I love your marketing plan. Brilliant. I think it's super interesting. I'd be curious to see how you would then take the phone game and make it a part of your film. Like, because the two need to be connected. It can't just be like, we're gonna get to know your characters. They have to be connected somehow, so that way people relate it back to the movie, or they kind of get the inside joke, if you will. Other than that, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I think you have really strong dialogue. The words sounded authentic to each character and heartfelt, and there was good timing. The score set a good mood and tone, so we knew it kind of primed our emotions for the script. And the thing I found most interesting is that you have this kind of beautiful ambiguity about what we're watching, because at first I just assumed the person who's talking is the person I'm looking at, and then you show the rings, and I thought, hold on, maybe what I'm watching is the person that they're speaking about and not the person who's speaking, which is a terrific way to engage your audience, because your film actually works both ways. This could be the person that they're talking about or the person that we're seeing, and that can create a conversation among the audience, and that's a good way to market. It's also a good way to get people to watch the film the second time if they say like, well, let me go back and see, because it works both ways, and that's, whether it was intentional or not, it's a beautiful trick. So well done.
Thank you.
All right, clap.
Yay.
I will mute myself again, and I will unmute at the end of the presentation.
which took place in Texas, but with much fewer characters and a little bit less dialogue.
Wake up!
All I know is my morning routine. Get up, out of bed, and go out there. I still think about her sometimes. She'd only want the best for me. Sometimes the future can be scary. Change, it messes with me. It was almost like a dream. Felt so real. I didn't want to grasp reality again. it's time I should change.
Should get some sleep though.
Maybe another day. But just not now.
So that was my film, Seventh Day, and behind this film there is a little bit of a personal story, but I'll just run through it very quickly. I used to have a lot of friends, but as I grew up, I became socially inept, incapable of talking to people and just really telling them how I feel. And this is a visual representation of what's currently and sometimes not currently going on in my head. I feel so isolated from other people, as if I'm just an alien of some sort. Sometimes I just don't want to speak, and when I'm with my friends, I just feel normal again, but I just think to myself, how did I even make friends in the first place? I'm sorry. I got my inspiration from Slacker, which I've only seen once, so if you ask me any actors in there, I probably won't get that right. It's a 1990 film, and pretty sure it was just some people going around talking with everyone else in the local area about their viewpoints on things. Someone trying to sell something Madonna, I don't even know anymore. My sound and score, I kind of feel like I had a little bit of a struggle with. The ambiance felt a little bit redundant, but everything else I am very proud of. The music at the beginning to give an ominous, mysterious kind of feeling in the mind of this teenage kid's head, and memories and or flashbacks of him and his friend just being themselves. My marketing plan is a bit of a standard one that could fit into this time, such as face masks, kind of like the one that I'm wearing that the character is also wearing, and the dialogue that goes along with that anyone barely could hear is from me wearing the mask talking into my horrible microphone. But that is also symbolic to the character, as if, you know, they could not speak out what they really wanted to say. And to everyone else, it probably just sounds like mumbling. Miscellaneous. That was a real friend of mine, Gracie Cook. She is very fun to talk with, all kinds of weird topics. And she was actually up for this role way before I even started writing the script. And her sister was going to be in it originally, but her job got in her way, but I don't blame her for that. She got a second job at Starbucks as well. So Gracie and I just went to the park one day, but the weather clearly did not agree with us because over Christmas break it just got crazy windy, just whoosh, and it was ridiculous. I had to cut out some of the dialogue, and by some I mean most of the dialogue. Script writing for this was to make the characters seem like they are children in an unknown world. Okay. And that is all. Thank you. Any questions? Eric?
Did you change like your idea of your film since like you were in Murdoch's class?
About 4 times, yes.
Can you talk to me a little bit about those long shots that you chose to use? Obviously, they were meant to be kind of artistic. What were you intending the audience to get from those?
To get the impression that the future scares this character and that they refuse to see to it. They just cling on to memories of the past and don't want to move forward in life. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
All right, reflect.
Ricardo, you said that music was and the soundtrack was a challenge for you, I guess. I felt like that was one of the highlights of the film. The idea that you were going for mysterious and brooding. I think that you chose a musical piece like really, really well to create the mood that you're going for. The critique that I have is that this felt like an experimental film. It didn't feel like a narrative film. I didn't really get much of the narrative out of it. I'm struggling with that. I understand maybe the concept of like this is just a day in the life of this particular character, but every day can have a narrative as well, especially in movies that are supposed to be hyper-reality. We cut all of the boring stuff out, right? That's why most people aren't going to the bathroom in movies. So this particular day, or a snapshot of this day, could have had a little bit stronger narrative to it than what you chose. Or you could do vignettes of the day, right? Little sections that have narratives that drop you into like, this is what this particular person's day is. You talk about the morning routine, but all we really see of the morning routine is you putting a hood on, or the character putting a hood on, right? And so I think that, structure and narrative, a little bit of writing for that specifically would have done this film a lot of good. Unless it was meant to be an experimental film. And if that's the case, like, this becomes a different conversation, but I think it was meant to be a narrative film as far as the assignment goes, at least. And so that's where I'm struggling with not having any sort of narrative in there.
I agree. I also really liked the music choices. Something that I really enjoyed in your film was when we did get those longer shots of your two characters. I could automatically tell what the relationship was based on the actions that you guys chose, right? Or where they were in the scene. So one of the first shots we saw was the two of you walking, and one of you just sort of like playfully touched the other, like pushed them. And I could tell right away what that relationship was just based on that one action, right? When it comes to acting, stuff like touch is so, can be so monumental. And like I said, just in that one moment, I could tell what the relationship dynamic was. I also liked how later in the film there was a longer shot of you two sitting on a bench and you were facing each other. Typically when you sit on benches like that, you face outwards, right? But you guys were completely turned into each other, like whole bodies facing each other. So you could tell that there was not necessarily deep conversation, but both of the characters were invested in that conversation. And not only did you guys have that blocking distinction, or you made that decision, but in the background there were other people, right? There were like kids playing on the playground. It seemed like everything behind you was in motion, and then you two were just completely almost like enamored with each other, right? And so I thought that was a really interesting choice. I almost wish I would have seen, like I wish I would have seen more of those relationship dynamics, but what you did have I thought was really interesting. So nice job.
Curto, I'm kind of struggling with this one a little bit. Your first three opening shots, I couldn't really get a grasp of what your film was. I was still trying to guess what I was watching. Things such as exposure and exposure and focus were kind of all over the place. And when I asked you about those two long shots, you went into a really in-depth, detailed explanation about what you really wanted your audience to get. And I didn't get any of that from those shots. Yeah. I guess that's about as much as I want to say about it. It just kind of fell flat for me, man.
Yeah, so again, sound, I think the sound choice was great. The shots that Vader was talking about specifically, they felt too long for me, but because we didn't get to, between the masks and the hood on the character that you were playing, we didn't get to see any kind of facial expression, right? And so you got to see, obviously, whatever was happening, we were tuned into one another, but it was a little too far away for me to feel connected to them, right? But they connected to one another, but I couldn't connect to one of them. And so the longer that shot lasted, the more difficult it was for me to stay kind of interested in the shot. But I think those were some cool choices. What happened to the script that you wrote first quarter? Because this isn't that. And so you had a concept, and this is completely different. When did that change happen? Also, your Lukewarm Shuttle Productions, is that what it's called? Studios. Where did that name come?
So it came from like, what temperature do I like ideally in water? Lukewarm came around, it's like I love space a lot, so it was like lukewarm.
I was imagining like a bus type shuttle, not like a space shuttle. So, all right, I'm glad I got it. We'll bring it to Connie. You're up on the screen, so we'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, I think you did a good job of tapping into a timely and relevant theme right now as we're all in the pandemic and social distancing, and we're separated from the people that we think about all the time and the people that we rely on to kind of have a normal life. The opening was very intriguing. It was dark and moody, and the voiceover put us right into the head of your character. Which sounds like that's what you intended. Yes, some tighter pacing, especially in the opening, like the opening credits. There was one shot in the dark, but I couldn't tell what was going on. So that was a little confusing. I think maybe if some of the things were more clear, that your audience would spend less brain power trying to put all the pieces together and be able to just invest themselves in the movie. And I think the last scene where we go from the memory to him back at the computer. I think that would be a good opportunity to maybe crossfade the sound, so we have the understanding that these memories are seeping into his life and that this is a part of what he thinks about constantly, instead of it being an abrupt cut. Like, I think about it and now I'm here thinking about it, if that makes sense. So just a smooth transition there, but good job. You definitely have a unique voice as a filmmaker, and that's memorable.
Okay, I'll go. So one thing that really stood out to me right away is your voice. There was a part when you started to really make your voice kind of gravelly, and it sounded sad. And I think that part to me was like, whoa, because that's hard to do. And it made me feel like you were processing something, which is cool. Especially since, from what I'm gathering from your film, you're really thinking about memories and when you're with people, and how people also make you feel not great, that they make you kind of nervous. And that really came through for me in that part with the gravelly voice. I would, if you're gonna do voiceovers like this, I would figure out a way to kind of intermingle those a little bit, so it's not such a hard transition between like your mind and then sitting at the computer, kind of like Connie was saying, that you also need to do that a little bit with your voice. As far as the marketing plan goes, I do love the idea that you're going to use masks because they're so prevalent in our lives right now. That's quite brilliant, actually. My question to you is, what would you be doing that would make it stand out? Because everyone's wearing them. So what are you going to do to the mask to make it relate to your film so that when people see it on other people, they're like, oh, that's that film. Need to see that. So that's what I would say there. I think that's all I got. Logan, it's up to you.
All right, will you remind me of your name again? Ricardo, the biggest question I have is the title. Where did you, there's an Amber Alert where I'm happening. So, not be more inopportune. Couldn't happen during the other surveys or anything like that. Okay, I'll look for that lost kid later. Where did your title come from, Seventh Day?
Well, at first I loved Saturday, huge fan of it, always thought of it as a holiday. And recently I discovered an indie pop band called Sales with Lauren something and Lauren Shai, just a two-people band, and I just heard the song Seventh Day, and the lyrics kind of inspired me to come up with the title. Just, you know, to keep, like just say, you know, today's Thursday, right? Saturday, or Seventh Day, as I refer to it now, is just like kind of an ambition, a visual goal that you know is there, but have a hard time, you know, getting to the week.
Awesome. I knew you would have a fascinating answer, and I got it. So great job there. I will be equally as complimentary on your sound editing. I love that you said it was a shortcoming of yours. Totally disagree. Very good. Ambience was awesome. The tracks that were beneath everything, awesome. At one point, when the character was in their room, just the lamp was lighting their face. There was some like children speaking in the background, or just like younger voices speaking in the background. I like held my phone up to my ear so I could really hear it well. I don't know if it was planned or not, but I liked it because it fit the ambience of the entire film. It gave me that unsettling, but it also gave me that, sends me back to maybe when these two were younger and they are having those conversations, and you kind of tell it's a lifelong bond. So I love that. I could tell that this was a creative outlet for you, and that is awesome. I think that that's exactly what film should be. I think that you should be able to take a camera and take some characters and take a script and make it personal. And I saw that in this film, and I could tell that it was Ricardo, it was you, and that I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Your pacing, I liked the long shots. I know that hasn't been a lot of feedback you got today, but I liked it. It gave me time to think. It gave me time to be in the moment with those characters. It was, like Bailey said, there was movement in the background, but you also had those characters right in front of you in their moment, so it's like you got to share in their moment. And I love that. Gave me time to think. Yeah, that was all my notes. So fantastic job. I love this film. Great work.
Everybody clap for Ricardo. Zoom folk, you guys